Hey, Stu,
Hey, Tom.
Tactical Fitness Report with Stu Smith. This is podcast number 6
All
called
right.
Operator Grip. So we've done a number of these now.
Yeah. Operator grip. That's a good one. I call it the operator grip just because, if you're a police, military, fireman, special ops guy, right? Grip's very important. And if you're doing those jobs, you are the operator. So you got to have, old man strength, we call it. So we can
So
go into some of those details today. I love this one.
we will. We've got an email here, Stu, that comes from your article out of military.com, and it's titled Operator Grip. People can find it there. This says, Stu, I'm actually pretty good at pull-ups, but have found it tough to do multiple sets of higher reps. Not because I cannot do any more pull-ups, but because I cannot hang on to the bar any longer. My forearms are on fire. I have the same issue when doing rope climbs and even some tactical skills. How can I get my forearms stronger?
Well, great question. In fact, we touched on this one a little bit in a previous podcast, maybe even the first podcast as well. Talked about what it means to be a tactical athlete, and you have to have this grip. So it sounds like to me his forearms are just getting tired because he's has a weaker grip of hanging on that pull-up bar, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that bar is really bigger than what he was used to practicing on, so that's going to require him to use his grips a little more differently. Some people use like a hook grip,
Yep. Yep.
instead of wrapping their thumb all the way around the bar like this, they'll do it like this. And if you think
Yeah.
about the way a rock climber climbs, right? Yeah, they climb with that versus this, and that will help you avoid major blisters too. If you can, hook it with your fingers versus the top of your hand, and then you're pinching all of this meat right here against the bar, and then you wonder why you got a massive blister and nasty callus on your hand. You're going to get calluses anyway, but you won't pop blisters if you're doing it this way versus this way. So think about a rock climber. Rock climbers, out of probably everybody, maybe a gymnast too, probably have some of the better grips in athletics.
Yep.
Just for what they do all the time. So try rock climbing. If you want to get better at some of these things, try to challenge yourself with some of these exercises that will help build some stamina in these forearm muscles right here, because what controls your hand are these muscles right here in your forearm, right? So I use a grip circuit. We can go through the grip circuit. If the workout itself isn't challenging your grip enough, or maybe too much, you might need to add in some extra grip exercises as well. So for instance, we do a full body workout where, we'll do pull-ups, we'll do weighted pull-ups, we'll do a variety of types of pull-ups, even dangle the rope over the bar and you're holding on to do pull-ups with a rope. That's a great way to simulate rope climbing if you don't have a rope to climb, right? And we'll also do deadlifts. So just those two exercises alone, between deadlifts and pull-ups, are phenomenal for your grip. So those might do it by themselves. However, if they don't, and you feel like you need a little more work on your grip, I have some great exercises, and these are nothing new by any stretch of the imagination. These are old school grip exercises. I'm talking the old, weight on a rope and you're twisting the bar.
Yep.
The rice bucket, right?
Yep.
Where I'll show you great pictures of these here in a second. In fact, you want to go into a share, I can just show you these real quick on how we do it. So
Yep.
before I show you the exercises, here's how we do it. Do your normal workout, your pull-ups, your pull-downs, your rows. All of those are going to affect your grip in some way, right? So if you're doing a pulling exercises, chances are you have to really grip things, right? If you're pulling things off the ground or pulling your body over a bar, you're using your grip. So the workout itself may be sufficient, but if you're telling me that you can't finish the workout because your grip is given out before your arms and legs are given out, or your deadlifts are giving out, then chances are, we need to work on your grip. So we'll add some exercises to it. So do your normal thing, get burned out with pull-ups and deadlifts and rows and pull downs, and then start adding these exercises in there. And I'm going to do a screen share with you for the my desktop, right? And just show you, this is from the article at military.com. Can you see this,
Yep.
Tom?
Yep.
Right, you see right here, we're doing pull-ups, and we're doing a couple different things here. This is a close grip pull-up, but if you notice, they're little wider grippers that you put over the bar.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the company that makes them, but has something to do with grip ease or something like that, where you just slide these little cups over the bar that instead of your hands being this, now they're really big, and it forces you to use a lot more of your forearm.
Gotcha.
And all I'm doing here is I've failed at pull-ups, and now I'm just hanging here. So
Okay.
how long can I hang there with my shoulders flexed? I don't want to ever relax my shoulders to a point where I get my shoulders to my, fully relax your shoulders. You want to kind of lock your shoulders down a little bit. Main reason why, if you're relaxing your shoulders too much, the only thing that's really keeping your shoulder together are those little rotator cuff muscles. So you want to kind of flex your shoulders while you're hanging. But that's a great one to work the grip.
And Stu, when you say flex your shoulders, shoulders, what you mean is your upper back, right?
Yeah. Flex your shoulders.
Keep your upper back tight.
So you're not.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can do it here, but if I do it up here, like my shoulders can actually touch my ear. That's a little too much on your rotator cuffs. I've seen people, hurt their either bicep tendons or, rotator cuff from just letting themselves relax too much on that pull-up bar. But anyway, hanging grip. Then this right here, this little picture down here at the bottom, is nothing more than that, tricep pull-down rope that you do in the gym. We just take it over the pull-up bar, hold on to it like this, and try to do pull-ups. And that's killer on your grip. Let's see how this one looks. Now, you see this? This is just the old school weighted rope. You bring it up, all the way up, and then you bring it all the way down under control. You don't want it to slide down, right? So
for the folks that are listening to this thing, Stu, rather than being able to see it, describe what you're doing here.
Oh, okay. Good point, podcasters. The old school, you have a weight, and you have a rope tied to that weight, and that rope is also tied to a bar or a little stick, right? And all you're doing is rolling the stick one way to wind the rope on that stick. And you don't need to go too heavy with this. I think anything 10 pounds or more is going to be sufficient. If you try a 25-pounder with this thing, you're going to really feel it. But you can try it. Nothing wrong with trying it. But the weighted rope on a stick, fantastic. And now this is probably my favorite, the old school rice bucket. And this is a 5-gallon bucket filled with rice about 2 inches from the top. And there's a couple ways to do this. You can stick your hand in it down to just past your knuckles, and you just open and close your hands about 50 times. And when you lift your hands out there, you have magic Popeye forearms,
I bet.
just from doing this. There's another way to do it too, is just, maybe have a lacrosse ball or a golf ball down on the bottom. And the only way to get to it is by opening and closing your hand all the way to the bottom to try to find that golf ball.
Very interesting.
And that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. Like I said, these are just old school things. And then, of course, the battle rope. If you don't have your own rope to climb, and personally, by the time you've done all of these, you probably shouldn't be climbing a rope anyway, unless you're using your legs a lot.
You've done them properly, yeah.
Unless you're using your legs. And that's, the only real way to climb a rope is, using your legs if you want to do it multiple times. So there is a technique for that. But this is a great, once again, you can skip a cardio cycle and just do the battle ropes for a couple minutes, and your heart rate will be up there and your grip will be hurting. So
those are good, Stu.
So
Those are
yeah.
good.
So I just wanted to show those pictures, kind of give you a little explanation of how we do that. And so what we will do is we'll go through our normal workout, and then at the end of it, we'll top a little grip circuit down there where you have to pick 3 or 4 of these exercises and just do until you fail at all of them.
You know, if worst case, Stu, you can always use one of these babies. This is,
Hey, that's even more classic.
you know, this is the Captains of Crush gripper.
Oh yeah, I
This
love
is
that one.
this is a number 1. It's rated at 140 pounds, but they make a 4 that's rated at 365 pounds.
They've gotten a lot tougher
Yes,
with their age.
this is not.
Those used to be a joke.
Yeah, this is
You know?
not a joke, I'll assure you. What's good about that, though, Stu, is literally you can pick your weight. Like a number 2 is 295 pounds, and number 2.5 is 237 pounds. So you can literally pick a number, and it'll simulate how much your body weighs. Notice how I'm using about 146. This is aspirational.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with those. I mean, I think that's a great way to top it off, especially if you're, commuting somewhere. You're
Exactly.
not at the workout. They're a great way to, sitting at your desk or whatever.
Stu, we were talking about the utility of a strong grip beyond PT. So let's talk about the utility of the grip, because a lot of people that are fans of yours that are going to be listening and watching here are not special operators necessarily, but they have their own tactical requirements for a strong grip. You and I were talking about the benefit, and this is Chris Sanog that really has pushed this in a really good way, of a strong grip on a weapon. And we can come back to that in a minute, but let's spend a second and talk a little bit about the just the general benefit of a strong grip of the tactical athlete, not in the PT side, but in the operating side.
Right. There's a couple things that you need a grip for. One, just to do some of these exercises, to maybe even finish an obstacle course along your training, because a lot of those have ropes in them and things you have to grab and climb over, and just your workouts in general. But, grabbing onto a caving ladder, if you're going up a side of a ship, or, any type of awkward ladder, cargo nets, any rope climb, obviously. But
just serving as
somebody, grabbing on somebody's arm and
exactly.
out of danger is probably the most important reason why you need a good grip, right? Yeah. And you can be able to hold on to things as well. Now there's, obviously, shooting, you need a good grip too. In fact, there's a couple of tests out there where you have to dry fire so many times with your dominant hand and dry fire so many times with your non-dominant hand.
Yep.
And people fail that non-dominant hand test just dry firing a weapon, especially
Absolutely.
if they're not used to shooting a weapon and might be bigger than what they thought it would be. Some pistols or grips are bigger than others. And dry firing that weapon 10 times, can be challenging, right?
Yes.
So yes. There are many other reasons, but as far as accuracy for shooting too, a strong grip helps.
Yeah, we were talking about this, and we'll, on another podcast, I'd like us to spend time on how to incorporate close quarter battle type activities in your workout. You know that I do that. Right? You and I have talked about this a long time, that I incorporate hand to hand and dry firing while I'm working out. But what I'm doing is simulating the conditions. Right, you're simulating a high heart rate. You're simulating being somewhat out of breath, not out of breath, but you're breathing hard, and your hands and body are not completely stable as if you're standing there in a shooting range, right? Because you just jumped in the pull-up bar, you just done 8-count bodybuilders or whatever you're doing. Those are the conditions that operators find themselves in, to have to be able to execute some aspect of close quarters, and so you can do that inside your workout when you're doing this. But one of the things that helps there is having an incredibly strong grip on whatever you're doing, right? Whether it's your weapon, whatever weapon you have, right? Whether it's a knife or it's a firearm, because being able to do that and hold it very tight. And as Chris Sanog will say, and he says it very well, and people that are interested in the shooting side should go there. And by the way, knowing full well that if you haven't seen the video of Stu going through the ice, remember the thing you did, Stu, where you sat in the ice for gosh knows how long, then you jump out, you run a mini obstacle course, and then you shoot very well. Let me just put it that way at the end. So Stu doesn't need to learn the shooting side, but being able to hold the weapon incredibly tight and pull the trigger and maintain accuracy in your ability to shoot under those conditions, the stronger your grip, the harder you hold that weapon, the more accurate you're going to be in being able to hold the sights, because you will not pull that trigger with a feather pull when you're under stress conditions. And everybody knows this. And this is why so many people miss under stress conditions, is because the adrenaline's pumping, they're holding very tight, and they're not always going to pull that trigger in exactly the right way.
Right. When we're taught to let it surprise you.
Right.
Right.
I mean,
on the shooting
come
range,
on, man.
Just shoot it and let it surprise you, so you don't jerk it. But
I mean, there's just no way under normal conditions, right? That actually happens. Not that you're going to stand there and just wait for it to surprise you, right? Yeah. So we were all taught in ways that people thought made sense back then, and now it's become a much more sophisticated game in that. But, and I've spent way too much time talking about this, but it's the point about that hard grip, being able to hold the weapon very tight so that when you do jerk the trigger, you don't change the sight position. That's the basic point. And you will learn to do that well if you incorporate your dry firing, not shooting, but your dry firing into your PT. But the benefits of a strong grip is
I wish I'd have known we were going to kind of veer off into the shooting realm of this operator grip, because I'd have brought my SIRT pistol. I don't know if you ever used one of those, the SIRT.
No.
Pistols. It's a regular Glock, but you can dry fire it, and it's not a real weapon, but it's a laser pointer. So when you shoot that trigger, a laser pops out, and you can have a target set on the other side of the room, and
yes,
laser hits right there, and you can dry fire, and you can see, you do 5 or 6 quick shots, you can see where that laser's bouncing, throughout the whole thing, or if it stays in one spot the whole time. So if you do a Google search, SIRT pistol, you'll see it. SIRT. They're awesome. Love it.
Yeah, we'll come back to all those things, but and again, I spent too much time on it. I'm sorry about that.
Oh no, I don't mind. I think it's a great. I think it's a very important reason why. I think if we're going to tell people, hey, you need to work your grip, we need to also say this is why it's important.
Yes, absolutely, and I assure you that many of these things. One of the things we've talked about, Stu, you and I talked about a couple of times, and I imagine you're going to write an article about this, and then we'll do a podcast on it, is this issue of what I call a personal marker. And your personal marker that we've talked about before is you need to be able to do the standard test, right? The standard physical test.
Right. Yeah, I enjoy that, that BUD/S fitness test that everybody has to take to get into BUD/S, and that's just one of those things that kind of resonates with me. I think everybody has their own marker. It might be, bench pressing 400 pounds. It might be deadlifting 500, whatever that marker is for you that gets you into fitness and kind of gives you a different why of why you need to go and work out, besides your job or whatever, fitness and health reasons.
Yeah, I want to come back to that, Stu, and have you, first of all, perhaps write an article about that, because I think it's interesting. You and I were talking about, for me, it's an ability to pick somebody down the aisle of an airplane, right? I mean, Just
One thing that I do, as a writer is on my Facebook page, I have a tactical fitness closed page where what I do is ask people that are on my Facebook page, and I'll ask them today, what is your personal marker that you have to
great.
get by every day, that you want to be able to do well? What is that in the weight room? And I'll give my example of, I like the Buds PST test of being able to swim 500 yards, pull up, push up, sit ups, and a 1.5 mile run. Right.
Yeah.
I'd
really love to hear it.
Yeah. As long as I can do that, I'm pretty happy with my fitness. And if I can still meet those standards to get into that training, right, where I see all the 18, 19-year-old kids, if I can do that at 47, 50, I'm very happy. Right.
Yeah. I'd love to see that list, Stu. I really would.
Yeah. I'll do a top 10 list of what's your personal marker. I think that'd be cool. So if you guys are watching this, email me, stu@stewsmith.com, what your reason is for working out. What is your personal marker for you to realize that you are hitting on all 8 cylinders?
Yes. And when
what's yours, Tom?
are,
what's yours? Tom, what is it that you like to do?
We've talked about this. Mine is the ability to know that I can push kick somebody down the aisle of an airplane.
Got it.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I need to require some flexibility, some strength.
Some strength. Yep. And to be able to do it. And as you know, right, nobody looks down, right? We all know that. So to be able to come from below with a push kick is the way you do it. Yeah. And so for me, knowing that I still have the power in my legs, I still have the flexibility, I still have the balance to be able to do it and not move my hands, use my hands for cover, yet be able to push kick at the same time. And so I incorporate that every single day in my workout. I do push kicks.
I like that.
So it's I'm sure we're going to find way more interesting ones. This just comes from a long history of me, but sure. I'm sure we're going to find some really interesting ones from the readers and from the listeners of the podcast.
Yeah, I think I've evolved after a while, because it used to be like if I could add 3 different lifts together and I can get over 1,000 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, like if I could do bench press, deadlift, and squat, and I can get over 1,000 pounds, adding those 3 up, I was pretty happy. If I hit 1,200, I was even real happy. But those were old powerlifting school goals, right?
Well, it'd be
break me if I
to hear.
I did break 1,000 last year, but I gained too much weight with it. So.
That's incredible. Well, look, buddy, we've run out of time for today. So how would you summarize operator grip? Why somebody needs it? What they're going to do to get it?
Yeah,
and maintain it.
Make sure your normal workout incorporates the use of grip, whether that's a lot of pull-ups, some deadlifting, any type of pulling exercise, whether it's a rope, it's a pull down, it's a row, all those exercises, rowing. Actually, that's a great grip exercise. I don't know if you ever talked to a guy that rows crew, but man, those guys' grips are super strong. So pretty much anything that you're pulling, and grabbing and pulling to your body, those are great exercises to help you with your grip. And if you need to supplement, your workout because you feel your grip is a little weak, add in some of those old school exercises, the rope on, the weight on a stick with a rope, rice buckets, and just hang on a pull-up bar. Do the old strongman hang test. How long can you hold yourself up there on a pull-up bar? All those are gonna do the trick for you. And it just, as with anything, takes a little bit of time, and you will get better at it.
All right, Stu, Heroes of Tomorrow. Just remind everybody about Heroes of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I run a program here in Maryland called the Heroes of Tomorrow. We train kids for free who want to serve, military, law enforcement, firefighters. We get a lot of veterans that come in and work out with us as well, and they're great mentors to our young kids that slide out of here and go off to do great things. But yeah, if you check out my website, stewsmith.com, and there is a red hyperlink in the right-hand corner of that website that says free workouts. You can't miss it. anything with free, it's going to catch your eye, and it's bright red. It's the only red hyperlink there. Click that, read what we do, and there's a little video in there about what we do as well. And if you're in the Annapolis, Maryland area, come join us. We put on a lot of fun events and workouts, and if you're interested, come check us out.
All right, buddy. I will talk to you later. This has been the Tactical Fitness Report with Stu Smith, podcast number 6, operating.
All right. Cool, Tom. Thank you very much, and I will see you guys later.
All right, bud.